Welcome back, everyone. We have a very talented guest with us. We have Doc Coyle from Bad Wolves. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little tired. Didn't get a ton of sleep last night. I just, for some reason, I wouldn't stay asleep, but I had to run out and do a rehearsal. But you know what? I'm gonna power through. All right, I believe in this situation. We're gonna be good.
Were you getting ready for the current things you have coming up this coming week with the Nam Jam and
Uh,
Metal
well,
Legions?
well, I had a few things. I jammed with issues
I
last
saw that.
weekend, and then tomorrow I'm playing Ultimate Jam Night. I have 3 songs on that, and then I'm playing Metal Allegiance on Thursday, and I have 6 songs. So
Dang.
it's just been a lot of prep, and I'm like the kind. I like over prepare. I just can't really help it. So and then we did a couple rehearsals for this, and then I have rehearsal on Wednesday. So it's just like it tends to kind of dominate everything. But yeah, and then I'll be on NAM on Friday for a few signings and things like
Yeah,
that.
that's crazy. Your schedule just seems insane, intense, as you will.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I mean, I don't really have much on the books for 2024 besides all this January stuff,
Yeah.
which is fairly common, around the NAM time in LA. There's always a lot of stuff going on. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's Bad Wolves will be doing some touring coming up, but that's not till like early, early spring kind of time or like late kind of that time. So
Nice. And so, what I'll bring into this is you recently released your fourth studio record with Bad Wolves. From 2018 to now, how has your writing approach changed?
it's a good question. Well, so the band pretty much when I joined up, a record more or less existed, right?
Hmm.
Already recorded 10 songs, um, and then when we decided to sign a record deal with at the time it was called 11-7, but Better Noise Music. Um, the band developed a lot more material, and I slowly started getting involved and helped out with a couple of the songs, did a couple of guitar solos. Um, and then, but it was because of a situation where essentially John and our original guitar player Max, they had like uh style. They had a methodology that seemed like it was working. And I was actually almost afraid to like get too involved because I don't want to mess it up. I didn't want to just like force myself in there because I wasn't the designer of the sound, but I of course have my own writing style and pedigree.
Hmm.
So I tried to find a way to fit in without disrupting what they were doing too much. So a lot of it, the second record, they went and did some sessions, and then I came in and kind of like gave all my notes to improve and add to songs. And then there was a couple songs that I had written. One was a song that I'd written for my other band, Vegas Nerve, that I ended up developing for Bad Wolves. That became the song Better Off This Way. And then a couple songs like LA Song and Forward Friend were like demos that I had, one of them me and John worked on, and one of them me and Chris worked on. So I kind of slowly started, getting more involved. And then the next record, a couple of songs were like, based on things I did. So it's, we tend to get in front of a computer, and, with Max and, John, and depending who we're working at the time, and just get instrumentals together. And then we start working on lyrics. It's nothing too crazy, to be honest. I'd say the only difference now is I think um, we're a bit more collaborative. We definitely will tend to like take submissions. Like if someone has a song, like a friend of ours, or someone that we like that's a songwriter might have something, and we'll kind of develop that. Or it's a there's a definitely we're definitely I think more collaborative now than ever.
That makes sense.
Sorry, that
And
was a
then
long answer. My apologies.
it's okay. Well, like with you saying all this, do you have like any archive stuff that Bad Wolves had done, or was everything on the new record new?
Trying to think. Well, there was a song. I mean, with us, it's hard to say because like John, I sort of got this guy. He'll have like a riff he wrote in like 10th grade, and he'll be like, "I've had this," and then like it'll you'll hear like he'll have a song or a part he'll have worked on that'll end up in demos for like all different kinds of projects, and he finally it ends up making it on something. So like this, there was a song that didn't end up making the record, which I still think we're gonna do. And it was like a song I started putting together. Um, but I wrote that on the second record, and it didn't really start. It just barely missed the cut this time. And it was like the how we started the song "Die About It" was a session John did with our late friend Gus. I don't know, was it last album? Yeah, it might have been. I missed going back 3 or 4 years. It was like this very like corn sounding kind of like electronic kind of weird kind of gothic song, and we took pieces from that, and that helped kind of create that. So even that's for a few years. So it depends what it is, and then a couple of the songs that DL wrote, like Savior, um he had sitting around, that he had written in different forms. So yeah, I guess you could say a handful of stuff has been existing in some form or another, but not everything.
That makes sense. And then so I see you guys released a record. A lot of people during this time like to release singles over records. What's your position on that?
I would much rather release singles than a full record, because I feel like, I listen to our album, I like every song, but when you release it as an album, people don't really get to focus as much on each song. So once it's out, it's like it's harder to kind of tell the story of the individual songs once it's out, because it's not as exciting. But unfortunately, a band like us, like the financials, a lot of our advances and stuff are based on albums. So it's kind of like to some degree, we're not saying we're stuck, but that infrastructure is what kind of keeps greases the wheels, and kind of for the finances of the band. So albums are still, we're contracted to do albums. That is how everything is kind of constructed. But I do think there is a downside from a marketing standpoint. I think if you're lucky, if you're a Metallica and you're a huge band, or Avenged Sevenfold, where there's so much hype and emphasis on these albums, and I do think, people in our world do, still do love albums, but you can't deny what artists like Falling Universe have done, just releasing singles. Bring the Horizon, how they've it eventually ends up as an EP, but they're kind of a singles oriented band. So it always feels like they're doing something fresh. Here's a new song, here's a new single, here's, and I think it's just, for the consumer, it is much, it's easier to access that and kind of connect with stuff and consume it on these smaller levels, and you just pay attention to those individual songs a little more. So I would prefer to do that, but we can't really do that as much as I would like to.
That makes sense. That sucks that it's like that, because I see it grow more and more, and it kind of gives the anticipation for us. We're like, oh my god, this song, and then you just listen to it, trillions of times.
Yeah, and to some degree, we're kind of stuck between those two worlds, because we do have a traditional record contract, that's based on LPs, and that's how all the infrastructure, it's just like, this is what, for the recording, for the advances, for everything is built that way, So I wonder, maybe in the future, maybe artists will do stuff that's less oriented around albums.
I think so, with how everything's changing in this environment. It seems like, because it's forever changing, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, I think it's just harder to historically, it's been, you could always make so much more money off an album, because you could sell it for $10-15 as opposed to one song. Whereas back in the day, you could have one hit, and then the album would sell 10 million copies, and people just wanted the one song. And now that's been decoupled. So for that one song to really make a lot of money, it has to be really big and stream a lot, and obviously some of those bands I mentioned are obviously doing very well, but not everyone is as fortunate.
I agree. So with you writing this record, do you have any favorite riffs that you wrote?
Favorite riffs? Probably, I just did a little video about it, the bridge riff in Turn It Down, which is it's really hard. It's one of those things where I had to play it piece by piece, because I basically wrote it in the studio, and I was, but it's basically my token kind of thrash metal riff on the album. I'm trying private riff I didn't write that I love is the main riff of Masquerade. I
Dang,
think
that's pretty cool.
that's a banging riff. There's some good ones on the record though.
What's weird is because so what I do is I try to listen to music from the person I'm gonna interview, and you go and you listen to, like, God Forbid, you go to Bad Wolves, you're like, "Wow, this is, like, a whole different band."
Well, it is.
It's
It's absolutely a different band. I mean, I'm not the main songwriter
yeah.
in Bad Wolves, and even I did another band called Vegas Nerve that was I did write all the music or most of the music
Mhm.
um, right after God Forbid, or even the same time as those on God Forbid, and even that is vastly different. So it's I like a lot of different things, and I think you're doing one thing for a long time. Sometimes you're just like I'm I think I want to do something else. You kind of sometimes feel a little stuck, in a certain zone. So,
And do you feel like with doing Bad Wolves now and you're doing, like, the shows and all that, do you enjoy that a little more than playing all that crazy thrash? Because I know you said you like that riff, but do you like how it's, like, kinda slower?
I mean, I like different things about it. It's definitely like it's a lot less physically taxing on your body. Just like that, like just how you actually play it, and then also just like I think more intense music.
Mhm.
Just you tend to move more and just violently kind of react to like the music makes you feel different, so you
Right.
move differently, um and so it's just a little more intensive on that level. So I enjoy both. Like it's interesting. I feel like if I did a tour with God Forbid today, like I wonder how I'd feel like doing
Yeah.
it every day for a month as opposed to like what we've been doing, which is like a show here or a show there. So I definitely, it's funny. So we're doing these songs tomorrow for Ultimate Jam Night
Mhm.
in LA. And it's like the night is themed metal, but I
Right.
kind of played stuff that was still heavy, but just a little more simple and chord based. Because it's just sometimes, because I'm at Metal Legion, so I do later in the week.
Yeah.
That's all super fast thrash, and I'm like, I just want stuff. It is more fun, I think, a lot of times to play stuff that's a little simpler. Um, where you're not kind of like just having to gear up your body to just be able to pull it off.
Oh, yeah. What's cool is, one of my friends, posted that he's actually jamming with you tomorrow, Ricky. He's gonna be
Yeah.
doing bass. That's gonna be sick. That's you guys are gonna be great together.
Yeah, no, I've jammed with Ricky a couple times, and he's pretty much like my go-to bass player anytime we get out here because he's like the best guy, but
Mhm.
he's always perfectly prepared. He knows the songs to the T.
Oh, yeah.
And his tone is incredible. He always has a great tone. So it's like that's the guy. If I'm doing something bass wise, he's the one I want by my side because he's always gonna crush it. And he's just like a
Right.
fun dude to be around.
Oh, yeah. I agree. And then so over the years, has your gear changed a lot or have you stayed about the same?
It's evolved a little bit, and it's really gig dependent.
Mhm.
I play with a few different bands.
Mhm.
Um, and for like real amps, I've been using EVH stuff, the
Nice.
5153, since 2010. And then a few years after that, I got a Kemper profiling amp. But I
That's
wasn't
cool.
really touring around that time, so I was just kind of using it at home for studio stuff. So a lot of the gigs, I was still using my EVH stuff. Um, and then once I started touring more, and Bad Wolves kind of got up and running, I started using the Kemper because it was just a little easier. Like the Bad Wolves guitar tone, I didn't devise it. You know, it was something that I had to kind of match someone else's tone, and that
Yeah.
was a lot easier to accomplish with the Kemper, and also
Yeah.
with the there's a lot of tonal changes and effects changes, and that it's easier just pressing one button as opposed to like having a pedal board with all this stuff, and
That makes
so
sense.
it just was a lot more pragmatic, and been using that with the band forever up until recently. We started using the Axifex, the Fractal Axifex 3.
Nice.
um, and that's kind of the same idea as that Max, who's the original guitar player, like the sound of the band is really his tone.
Mm.
And he was using the Axe effects recently, and he used it on the last album. And it was the way that we could kind of capture the most accurate version of the sound.
Nice.
And so it's been a little bit of an adjustment period, um, kind of learning that stuff, because we just started using on the last tour. But I
Mhm.
still, yesterday I was using my EVH, and then today I use my Kemper, and
Yeah.
then when I get done with this, I'm going to practice. I'm going to use my fractal, and I have a practice sample here. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
what each gig kind of needs. With God forbid, I've been using my Kemper because
Yeah.
it's I have the powered one and I can fly with it, and it's really easy. But a lot of times I do miss playing just the amp, because it's all there. Hopefully we get to play with the wedding band, with the Metallica guys, because that's
Mhm.
like real amps, like in your face. That's
Yeah.
I do miss that organic quality, but it is, just lugging it around, hurting your back,
Yeah, I agree.
dragging it upstairs. It's definitely something that I think in modern touring, especially now, because almost every band I'm with is on in-ears, it's not
Yeah,
as practical. And
I agree.
sometimes you have less stage space, you have less room in the trailer, you have just all these different factors that make it more difficult.
And when you're talking about like, because you're talking about matching sounds with Bad Wolves, how'd you go about that with Ice Nine Kills since they have like a whole setup?
Well, so I was really just basing on what they were doing. So I told them, I was like,
Mhm.
hey guys, if you just have gear, I'll just use
Okay.
what you use. But they didn't have all their gear with them, so I just used my Kemper rig, and
Nice.
then I basically designed a sound that I thought fit their tone, well. Um, and it just seemed to work, and so they were happy with it, and we just kind of just roll with that. And it was like each guy, Ricky was using something else, and Miles was using a fractal, and but it seemed to work, So I
Yeah.
don't think they're as particular as like the Ice Nine Kills sound. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's as definitive in terms of, whereas like Bad Wolves, it's like there's a very particular thing,
Mhm.
tonal qualities we're trying to replicate,
Mhm.
and get across. The band tunes very low, and there's very kind of distinct sonic things we're trying to do. And I'm not saying they don't have a sound per se, um, but I don't think it's more about, it sounds good. It's a good metal tone
Yeah.
relatively, and you're playing tight, and that's really, as long as it doesn't sound bad,
Right, of
I think.
course.
I would, there's certain elements of it be like a clean part with a certain effect. I would obviously, you know, make certain things for particular parts and stuff so that it fit whatever was going on.
That makes a lot of sense. And with you touring frequently and playing a lot of the same songs you do live, do you ever make any like minor like things to riffs or solos so just so you have like a little more fun?
Um, well, I think this isn't my theory. This is just a theory I've heard that I
Mhm.
think really makes sense. That essentially, like, I know you're a player, so you go on
Mhm.
tour. You might have experiences too, where you'll be playing really well. Sometimes you start a tour and it's like you're still figuring things out, and then you get halfway, you start getting on a good run, but
Mhm.
then sometimes you actually start playing things worse that you've been playing. Is because the body really doesn't like robotic repetition. It
Right.
really wants to it wants novelty, you
Mhm.
know. So I think sometimes you have to do little things, or like sometimes I'll go back to like tabs of songs. I'm like, oh, I was playing this, like you almost change it
Yeah.
without realizing it. Or like I noticed this with solos. I'll I'll try different things, or if like certain licks aren't really happening, I'll you know uh maybe shift things. And one thing I've done in recent years is simplify stuff that's just a little too technical, and if it's making your life hard, what you realize is 99.9% of people are never going to tell if
True.
you move something one note, or something that's supposed to be 16th notes, you just do eighth notes for a second, uh, because it's the lines are the details are very blurred when you're
Yeah.
playing live, especially in like a big venue. Like people can't really hear so you have to it's really about function over showing off. And again, if you're that person where you're the type of player where you're doing the craziest thing on purpose for the purpose that it's crazy. I guess that's some people. That's not really me. I just want it to sound good. I wanted to pull it off. And sometimes you have to kind of adjust certain things. Because just because you did something in the studio one way doesn't mean it's practical to do it live because you're not
I
in the studio. You're sitting down and you're like, all the tone is right and everything. There's no factors, so certain things you can pull off in that environment that are a little bit harder when you're standing up and you're moving
Mhm.
around and maybe the sound isn't as good or you're tired or whatever.
I agree. What I've learned from because I do bass videos, people expect you to do the craziest things. It's like, dude, I'm there for the rhythm, there for the groove, and there for as long as it sounds bitch, and it doesn't have to be fucking a million notes, you know? I'll never get
Yeah.
that here.
Well, listen, there's a time and place for that, and
Yeah.
as long as it makes sense. But just little things that you're like, man, this part's really driving me crazy, and you go, well, why don't we do it this way and make it easier for ourselves? And you go, oh yeah, that's fine.
Right?
So I'll do that every now and again. But I try to impart that to, like, if I'm playing with a new band that is really like they're really struggling. So I'm like, hey man, don't overthink it. Like sometimes maybe play it so that's not so crazy, and I'm sure no one's gonna care, and they
Right.
never do.
Right. So I read on your site you started your journey in the music industry with God Forbid. And then that's marking about 2 decades worth of playing on a professional level. How have you adapted in the industry over the years? And like, how is it for you? Like, how has it changed?
I mean, the first, I guess, one thing that really changed things for me was I got hired to play with Lamb of God,
Mhm.
filling in for Mark Morton on a tour of Metallica. Because at that time, this was 2009, I'd never played with anyone except for God Forbid. So it was just a wild thing to like have to play someone else's songs in like the biggest environment possible, and also Lamb of God songs, which are very hard to play,
Oh, yeah.
and all the guitar solos, and so that was like when I did that, and I feel like I did it pretty well. It kind of gave me a different kind of confidence in
Mhm.
myself. I never really saw myself as my own individual. I just thought I was part of a band. I was really very much a piece of a collective, and so after that, I started playing with a rock cover band, like a hard rock cover band, doing like Led Zeppelin and Incubus and No Doubt, and really stepping outside of my comfort zone because I was literally just playing metal
Right.
for 12 years, and I was kind of one dimensional, you know, and a lot of just basic rock stuff was actually very challenging for me. And I have like recordings of like rehearsal recordings, and it's bad,
Yeah.
to by my standard, it's bad. They like me in the band, but I spent basically from like 2010 to 2013 kind of going back to the basics,
Mhm.
and I started teaching guitar at a couple different places, and that made me like study uh, theory
Mhm.
more, and I started working on technique more. But it was really about expanding my palette. I started a cover band, my own cover band after that, doing like 90s and 2000s kind of rock songs. And I started jamming with all different kinds of people. And so
Mhm.
I just became a much more versatile player. And then I also really started, focusing on singing and harmonizing and working on vocals. So by the time I moved to LA in 2014, I was just like I was a very versatile player. I wasn't this one dimensional. I'm a thrash metal guy
Yeah.
who has to play a million miles an hour, and I was more comfortable with improvising and more comfortable. Oh, we're doing a blues thing. All right, we're doing, you know, and so that I think that gave me an advantage,
Mhm.
and that I could, like a lot of the gigs I started doing when I moved to LA was like these rock mixed with metal gigs where you needed to like, and one thing I realized, like especially in the cover band, is like a lot of metal guys can't really play rock. Like they don't know how to like ease back. They don't know how to have the swagger and kind of like they're so tight, and they're used to like everything's a 10, and
Mhm.
they don't know really how to kind of modulate. Um, so that's what I kind of did. I kind of just went into like this rock and roll boot camp for a few years with myself, and just it was good to kind of, this is I quit God forbid in 2013,
Mhm.
but kind of everything that led up to me quitting was almost happening for a couple years before I quit, and so I was existing in these other worlds. So yeah, so by the time Bad Wolves came around, I had even had more experience with that. And Bad Wolves is kind of a very good example of that. It's like this because the first album is all this crazy. Even that's another level of metal shit that I had never even played before that. But then we also had this rock side, and we had to kind of bridge that gap, you know.
Oh yeah. And like now it's like kind of like groovish, you know, like with the new Bad Wolves with your playing, like it's not all like, you know, crazy metal.
Yeah, I mean it's the band's very versatile, you
That's the
know.
good thing about it.
Yeah, and it's and again, it's not, all the songs are I don't write them all, so in many ways a lot of times I'm translating
That's
stuff
pretty
other
cool.
people have put together. And that's always a really fun process, to like because I transcribe all the music, all the guitar stuff, and I send it to everyone. So I get into the albums and I listen. Okay, what's going on here? And then like we played the song "Comatose" on this last tour, and we never played, and it was kind of like an album cut. We didn't know, how, it would go over, and it became like one of the highlights of the set because it's a really musically dynamic song, melodically dynamic, and it was like, whoa, this is like this other dimension of the band we kind of discovered. We started playing the song "Sober" from our second album. That was like a big single, like an acoustic song,
Yeah.
and doing like a really cool live version of it that went over really well. It's really simple, but it's like sometimes you realize, man, this kind of very simple stuff, works really well. And then we then Die About It off the new album was like one of the heaviest song we play live, and that went over like like a ton of bricks, and so it's cool to kind of just keep discovering new elements,
Agreed. Like, so when you did do the fill-in for Einstein Kills It, so did you translate all that over and write it all out, or did they send it to you so you didn't have to learn it like
No,
that?
I had to do it all.
Oh my god, that must have been insane.
Yeah, well, it was especially insane at first because they forgot to send me the tracks for the new album. So I had to end up doing work twice, you know. So it was really time consuming, and it was like they needed like it was like it was I didn't have very much time.
Yeah.
So that was one of the most stressed out I've ever been. It was cool though. Like later on, so I did the first tour, and then we added 3 or 4 songs between that and the next tour.
Damn.
But I was able because I had already knew everything. It was like I could transcribe them perfectly, and I would send them to the other guys so they knew exactly what they were playing. And so I got to kind of do for the Ice Nine Kills what I do for Bad Wolves, which is make sure it's really organized and like you're playing this, I'm playing this. And when you kind of I use a program called Guitar Pro, and it's a really organized way to have the music so it's not a question of what are we playing here. It's like it's written down. Go look at it. Like it takes the guesswork out of things.
And how long did it take you to learn all those songs?
Well, I was originally supposed to play lead guitar, and then a few weeks in, I ended up switching to rhythm, and so I had to like learn all the. So like there are parts I had to learn. So I was already learning all the leads. Then I had to learn the opposite part, but it was happening like during rehearsal. So I was like, some of the parts because we were rehearsing like 8 hours. We were there all day, so I didn't have time to actually learn the parts I didn't know. So even when we were done with rehearsing, I was out doing Bad Wolves dates, and during my time off from the gig, I'd be learning these parts. So I was still learning parts even after rehearse. So I'd say to learn everything is probably like 3 or 4 weeks. But if I would have had like all the music already done and I knew exactly what I was doing, like I probably could have got it done in like two weeks. But it's like, it was a lot of material, and like if I had to learn the solos, like really learn them, I probably would have needed a couple months to really get it so it sounded like something decent. But the solos are a bit above my head. I mean, I think I could probably get a decent facsimile of them, but it would have been tough. So it's Dan is a beast, and Miles who ended up playing the leads they're crazy. They're on another level. So I'm trying to keep up with those guys.
Oh yeah, I agree. I saw you guys with Metallica. That was insane.
Yeah,
I think the only downside about that is the stage is so big, so the whole theatric side kind of goes away with that. That because they're a very theatrical band. They like to put on a show, and like it's just so the stage is so wide, like you can't if you're over there you can't really see it, you know. But it was you guys sounded awesome though.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's the band, great songs, super professional. They put a lot of time just into
Yeah.
everything in their stage show, into the tightness of the band. I mean, it's a really they're awesome, and I'm very grateful just to have that opportunity.
And with you having that opportunity, do you wish there's any songs that they did put on the set list that you like?
Um, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm really bummed out. I didn't get to do the last tour because I didn't get to play the new song,
Mm,
Meet and
meet
Greet.
and greet,
That
yeah.
song is fucking great. I really like that song. Um, I mean, believe it or not, like I knew Harwood, that whole album, and I knew like the big songs of the previous record. But other than that, I didn't know any of their stuff from the previous record. Um, so they were pretty much playing the songs I really liked.
Mhm.
But you know, they would like kind of take some songs out. So I would like
Yeah.
miss songs when we wouldn't play them. So we were doing like what's the name of the song? I forget. Look up the song about Chucky. I forget the name. Assault Batteries. We were playing that like on the first couple tours, then we stopped playing it. I
Yeah.
missed playing that one. It was a really fun song. Then they took Stabbing the Dark out for a little bit, and I missed that, and then we brought it back. So it's kind of like it's more like songs we were playing, and then
Yeah.
we were playing uh Farewell to Flesh, which is a really great live song. Then we like, took it out and we never brought it back, and
Oh.
that was a really great song to play.
And with them being a very theatrical band, like you're saying that they did 8 hours like rehearsals. Is that including with all the theatrics? Like they went over that and got you
No,
guys
this
used
is
to
this
that?
is just playing. Yeah, but
So
then we
how'd you
would
get used to
do
that?
what's that?
How'd you get used to that? Like all the theatrics like happening on stage while you're playing?
So then we would do like pre-production days, and then they bring the actors in because you need like space, to do that
Yeah.
stuff. And they were doing that with like full lights, and everything, and then running through that. But those days, I think we did those in Europe. I think we had 2 days. I want to say. I don't think it was
Damn.
3 days. Maybe it was 2 days, and those days were even longer. Those days were like 12-hour days. Like we
Yeah.
were literally there till like 11 at night. Till we were the second day before we like loaded up, we were going till like almost midnight.
Insane.
It's a lot of stuff. But a lot of times, it's like sometimes they're dealing. Then we in between other tours, we had all new actors, so you have to train everyone. So you had like the old people there training the new people. And all that stuff. Those moves are so fast. The costume changes.
Mhm.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work, man. But everyone does a great job. Everyone really cares.
Yeah. Do you ever miss it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to go out with those guys again. But they are, basically, I only missed the one tour, the
Yeah.
last one they did, and they don't go out again till May, I think. So you never know. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna ask me to do anything again.
That'd be cool.
They don't really need me, but they seem to like having me around. I think I added a different dimension to the band, to the live show especially. I think
Yeah.
I have a certain intensity I bring to the table, and I think that worked really well. And it's just fun. It's like and the songs are good. When the songs are
Mhm.
cool, and everyone around is great, and it's just getting to be a part of that whole thing,
Yeah.
doing these Metallica shows. It's like I just feel like you never know if you're ever going to get a chance to do anything like that in the future. So if you have the opportunity, you kind of just have to do it. And just each one of those days, anytime I was in Metallica show, I would smell the roses. I would, just really take it all in and just appreciate
Makes
it because
sense.
it's these things are great, they're wonderful, but it's like they're not. It's like trying to grab a cloud. Once it's
Yeah.
over, it's over. All you have is the memory, and
Agreed.
so you really have to enjoy it while it's existing.
I agree because they're like basically the biggest metal band of all time, and you got to play with them. That's some of the coolest shit you can ever talk about, really.
Yeah, it's great, but it's not like in a weird way. Like I don't. it is an accomplishment, but I don't think it's something I can like hang my hat on. Like I don't feel like it's like
Yeah.
it's not like I got a gold medal or something. Like I didn't win anything. It's just I got to experience that. It's like it's a more akin to like oh, I got to climb Everest or something. It's just this
Yeah.
thing of like I got to be there in that moment, part of this piece of history, and I'm just this little kind of cog in this bigger wheel.
Mhm.
And I got to kind of be there for it, and and that's just really cool. So it's
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, I never really know. I never look too far down the line as far as like what's going on and future plans, but I'm always looking at what is right in front of me 9 out
Oh,
of
yeah.
10 times.
That makes sense. And when touring with your own band, how often does your set list change? And do you wish there's any songs that would make it on there?
With Bad Wolves,
Yes.
so listen, if it was up to me, I'd probably like I remember when we originally did, I want to say it was the second tour we did on the last album, like I came with this idea to have these like rotating set lists that would change every day, and that didn't really work. Um, so with Bad Wolves, because like everything runs like on a track, it's like Ableton, you press go. That's
Mhm.
pretty much it. There's really not a lot of space to change the set list a lot, unfortunately. So we had like a headlining set because we did about 10 headlining shows where we had pretty much like 14 songs, and then we had the Bush set, which was like 10
Yeah.
songs, and so we just had those two. Um, and yeah, like like I said, if it was up to me, I love switching it up and mixing it up. Like with God forbid on this last run, we were every day it was the list was the set list was a little different, because we were on the boat and we played 3 times, so we wanted to
That's
mix it
cool.
up so that each time if people saw the band each time, maybe they hear a song they didn't hear previously, and even that was a little bit challenging. But in a perfect world, I like to keep it fresh because I think it keeps you on your toes. It's just more fun,
Mhm.
you know. But I think most bands, especially in today's day and age, because everything is so reliant on
Computers.
yeah, like it's harder to do that. It's
Mhm.
if unless you're a more kind of old school band where you're not doing that. It's all like no click, no nothing. But you have a band like Metallica. Every day their set list is different.
That
Every
was
day.
crazy. I couldn't believe that. And they're playing like 30 songs it seemed like, so
Between the two sets, more than that, almost 40.
yeah, that's
We're in and out.
insane. Ins
But they would but I'm saying even before this tour, Metallica changes their set list every day. Like
That's
it's
pretty
like,
cool though.
they've always done that, and and that's a ethos that they're committed to. But not everyone kind of, because it's a lot of work
Mhm.
learning a lot of songs and being on top of that. And I think most bands don't really want to deal with the
It's a
work.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite tour stories?
Favorite tours? I hate this question.
It's always a good question, it makes people happy.
Well, no, because you have to like remember, like, because a lot of times you're just doing things. To you, it's not a story. It's just you were just on tour, um, But I'm sure because then you have to come up with something good, right? It's like here's a tour story. Here's the time
Yeah.
I did something. What's it? I'm trying to think if there's anything good from this last tour. Hmm, hmm, hmm. The coolest story I can't even tell, unfortunately.
Aw,
Maybe
breaking
one.
our hearts here.
What's that? No,
They're
maybe
breaking our hearts.
maybe one day. Hmm. I mean, I remember. Actually, this is kind of funny. So the first time I toured with Metallica was in 2009,
Mhm.
and I was playing with Lamb of God, and we were in. I want to say we are in San Antonio. So yeah, I think San Antonio or Dallas, one of those places in Texas. And like Chris Adler, the drummer from Lamb of God, calls me. You gotta come downstairs. Meet me in this room. And I go in there, and it's he's hanging out with Lars Ulrich, right?
Nice.
And Lars is just like he's just having a good old time.
Mhm.
It's like, what's up, Doc? Like, he knows my name. And it's like it's like the dudes from the band The Sword, with band The Sword.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
were there. I got to meet them, and then Joe, is it Joey from Unloco, the singer? I think that's his name, Joey Duenas. I think it's. I had met him before, but I didn't like get to meet him. So we were hanging because they're from Texas, and then that was the first day I met David Draymond from
Yeah.
Disturbed, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, it was just surreal because I'm like, I'm hanging out with Lars. Lars is giving me wine. And then Chris, and then I'm hanging, Chris Adler's over here and the sword, and and David Draymond. And then I met David Draymond. I'm like, he was exactly how he talks on stage in real life. I'm like, this motherfucker's giving me like a Martin Luther King speech to my face. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm about to go into battle with this dude. And it was just like, so, and he was so nice. He like gave me his email, and then we became friends after that. But it was like, I was just like, I feel like I'm in a movie. I'm one of the cool people finally. This was so that was it. That's my story.
It was gonna be funny and be like, if you can call that a movie, what would you call it?
I mean, well, that's a scene in the movie, but in the movie scene, you probably have to add more famous people. But hopefully I got to pick up some of those names I just dropped.
Do you have any tour rituals or writer request?
I mean, nothing out of the ordinary,
No,
but
no, like 1,000 brown M&Ms to fill a brandy glass or nothing like that. Come
no.
on.
Here's what I expect. You remember, the band is basically paying for all that shit, right? So, like, for example, like this Bush tour, like you'd have like a budget, and you could either use that money to get all the stuff that's actually on your rider, or you could just keep the money and just split up the money, like the catering budget. So sometimes we would just do that, and everyone would get like $20 to go, buy something or whatever. So it's like what you kind of realize with the rider is really you don't want the same rider every day, because you end up you get like you keep you fill up on stuff. Now you have like 10 cases of Dr. Pepper or something. So you don't need Dr. Pepper. So really you need like every day it should be slightly different so that you get enough of everything. And then you also like, it's like, all right, we get the lunch meat. And then you're like, I can't have another turkey sandwich. I'm gonna kill somebody. But I was definitely, last couple of years we've had the Casamigos tequila on the rider. That's pretty much become like an essential because it's just the best tequila. You don't feel like you're I don't know, it just goes down smooth. But I'm on sober January, so it's been a minute since I had the Migos.
I was thinking you're gonna be like how everyone else says, "Oh, we put the charcuterie board and the hummus on there," and I'm just like, everyone says that. That's always their rider request.
Well, we have a deli tray and a like veggie tray. We used to have. I don't think we have hummus anymore. I think we stopped getting it. But I like the hummus. I back it.
Yeah, I didn't know that they actually. I know they pay you out, but I didn't know that comes out of your whole.
Yeah, you have like a budget, and sometimes you can they'll just give you the money.
Yeah.
If you even with Einstein Kills, like the bus broke down, so we literally couldn't take anything. So we were just they weren't really even getting much rider stuff because like especially if no one's using it, if you have a table and fridge filled with stuff and no one's consuming it, it's like a waste.
Oh, I agree. And then, so have you played any shows that meant the most to you?
I mean, I think on on that last run, it was definitely like playing, Giant Stadium, which is called MetLife now, just because it's something. I'm from New Jersey, and I just never dreamed I would ever play there. It was like a big thing when Metallica played there for the Tattoo the Earth, and I couldn't even go to the show. My brother went, and I just like, it just seems like. I remember I saw Bruce Springsteen there. Like it just seems too wild to even think you can play there.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of the same thing played in LA at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And
that place is huge. How is being on stage? How does that look for you? Because I'm guessing you're roaming around. That thing looks huge from walking down.
Oh, they're all huge and just wild, like when you're kind of playing it, like there's not like your perception isn't that much of a big difference in terms of like playing the playing to it, because it's just like because you're reacting to the audience,
Yeah.
and not necessarily the venue itself. It's more like, uh, like you be in these different places and you see how people react, how much fun
Yeah.
that like that crowd, actually like Dallas, Texas had an amazing crowd. They were great. Montreal, the crowd was great. All the European shows, the crowds were amazing. Um, and then the other show, like I got to do Red Rocks on
Oh,
this
that must
last
have been
run,
cool.
and that was like just kind of everything that it's chalked up to be. It was really like surreal and quasi spiritual. We were locked in, like we really played great that day, and everyone was just like bringing their A game, and it was really really special. Um, so those are the ones like kind of off the top of my head. And then with Bad Wolves, I mean, we got to do a lot of these beautiful theaters
That was cool.
with Bush. It was just really like places like I feel like we're not worthy to play. Like it's like where Celine Dion should be playing or something. Um, and that was really cool. Just a great experience. Great dressing rooms and hospitality, and they all kind of blend together. I can't
Yeah.
really none of them really stick out, but some really great venues.
And with you talking about Bush, you've toured with Metallica, you've toured with many big bands, great bands. What do you learn from them?
Well, the main thing is important that you do learn something. I know some people that tour and get to do what we do, and they don't watch the bands. They just hang out backstage and go to the bus. And I think that's so stupid. Like you're basically getting a free education. You're getting like rock and roll college.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's Papa Roach or Nickelback or Nothing More or Five Finger or Megadeth or all these bands we've gotten to play with. I mean, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at how their songs come across. I'm looking at how they perform, how they sound, how they construct their sets. What they do with like their interludes, how they deal with the audience. But listen to the songs. Like, why does like I remember seeing 3 Days Grace open for Disturbed. I wasn't even on this tour. I just went to go see the show, but we had done a bunch of stuff with 3 Days Grace and seeing like man, their songs are like they go like I'm like the people in the back row know these songs.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. Like what is about these songs that makes people connect? And so it's just kind of trying to learn uh what works and why like okay, this band's great, but why?
Yeah.
What is it about that they do that connects? What is it? Is it the charisma? Is it the looks? Is it their production? Is it it's a lot of different elements. So I'm always trying to absorb all that and take notes, about what's effective, and how do you, go from being like a band that's pretty good to being a great band? How do you go from a band that's been around for 5 years to be a band that's been around for 20 years? And how do you not just stay afloat, but grow, And so that's the stuff I'm always trying to absorb.
I agree. That's the cool thing. Like what you're talking about is look at Metallica. They are one of the biggest bands in the world, not just because because their music reaches everyone, but look at the business aspect they are. They run that like a well-oiled machine, and that's what a lot of bands don't get. You have to run it like that. It's not party, party, party.
Well, I mean, or if you like Metallica, you could probably do both. They kind of
Yeah.
pulled off both. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, totally. And I mean, some bands just they have the it factor,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they just whatever that is, that star quality, that gift for writing, iconic material, whatever. They're the right group of people for that right time, and it's magic, whatever that is, and people connect to it. And very few bands encapsulate that as much as Metallica. And yeah, you can't get there without being smart enough to pull it off, ambitious, and also like they partied and stuff, but they said that no one died from heroin in
Right.
Metallica. They were all. It's like you look at that, they were on tour with Guns N' Roses, and Guns N' Roses was kind of falling apart
Oh
while
yeah.
they were just ascending. So yeah, they're obviously and being in close proximity with them, I look at them as the model for everything to follow. Even though again, you can't recreate magic.
Of course.
That's just that's we're all just you hope everything you do congeals like on some level and has that,
Mhm.
and hopefully that's the case. But the people will decide, whether you're that band or not.
I agree. What I think is crazy when you bring up Guns N' Roses, how they did that tour and they could have totally saved that fucking arena, but they decided, no, we're not gonna play. We're gonna end early and then like because James burned
Yeah,
his arms
yeah.
and stupid. I
By
don't
the way,
know.
that stadium, that's the same stadium I played with Metallica on this run.
That must have been cool.
Same place, yeah. It actually sounded like dog shit there, just an echo
Uh,
factory. Because it's from that place is where the Montreal Expos used to play. So it's like a really old dome. So it's kind of like, compared to the other places, it was kind of decrepit, actually.
Makes sense. So, what do you feel is the hardest thing about touring?
The hardest thing about touring, definitively, is just being away from my fiance
Mm,
and family and friends. I think especially when you tour at the clip I did, where I was gone, I was home for 8 days and 5 months. And
yeah.
it kind of, the road turns the volume down of everything outside of it. And so I think it makes it harder to be connected,
Mm,
to everyone. Like, dude, I mean, I feel like I'm still, like, I got home December 13th. So we're a month and like a week removed from that. And I feel like I'm just now kind of starting to feel normal, like, because you're just like, you have like, you know, uh, shell shock to some degree. And I think, because it's your days are so focused on one activity, that it's easy to kind of find a natural kind of reward system of
mhm.
accomplishment. It's like, I got up, I had a good show, and you feel like you like played like, a sporting event. It's like, all right, we played the game, we won the game, we had a good game. How, you have a good game? Yeah, all right, high five, right? So you have this natural kind of rallying point and distinct sense of accomplishment of like what your goals are and what you're doing. And you have a kind of a mission. And it's like,
Mhm.
all right, we have the mission. Um, and you kind of get through it, and it's like, okay. And then, now that I'm home, it's a lot more nebulous in
Yeah.
terms of like, what are my goals today? What I like, and I have to completely self start. Like, there's no one telling me, oh, you got, like, yeah, I'll have like management. Oh, you got to do this interview. You got to do this. Got to shoot this video or something. So there's definitely stuff like that, but it is much more like, all right, now I have to like plan my life. I need to
Yeah.
work on this. I need to, and I've just had a lot of ups and downs with like, you know, uh, exercise and diet and just getting like locked into all these things that, especially get to my age, you're just like, if you don't get enough sleep, your day is screwed up. You have, it's like this like domino effect, stuff that I feel like you're less impacted by it on tour, because you can
Yeah.
kind of just, you can get up at 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon. It's kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Like, whereas you do that at home, you're kind of like, you feel like a loser. You feel like
Mhm.
you
Oh
don't
yeah.
really have a great control of things. So, but I really think like the effect it has on relationships, I think, is really tough. Where to the point where I'm like, I don't even know how sustainable that is. For
Yeah.
me. I think it's really hard to you can't be in two places at one time. You just can't. Like, sometimes you're just gone, and if you can't, not accepting that, and what it takes to keep it so attached is really
Mm.
tough for me. And with everyone, I still feel like I'm like, man, my friends. I had friends. Family. I remember what they look like. I think that hope they remember me. I think that's tough, and it's definitely something that I struggle with, because I love touring.
Mhm.
But when I'm out there, like, I'll just like, it's all that matters. Like, I could just like,
Mhm.
all right, see you guys next century. I'll be doing this. Like, I'm completely content just to be out there rocking out. And it's like, but it's not real life.
Yeah.
You can't stay out. You gotta come back to reality.
Reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. With you, so we were talking about touring. What would your dream tour lineup be?
It's funny. I've toured with so many of my like favorite bands.
Mhm.
Probably depends like what band. Like, I feel like with God Forbid, I wish like we could do like Sepultura at the Gates.
Nice.
Maybe if we got Chuck Schuldiner to come back from the grave and get a death reunion or something like that. I think that'd be amazing. With Bad Wolves, I would just love to do like a new metal tour, just Korn and Limp Bizkit, and like Mr. Bungle or something like that, or Faith. No, we get Faith No More. There you go with Bad Wolves, and then everyone will boo us off the stage because we're not as cool, and maybe we'll throw Slipknot on there,
I definitely believe it.
Rammstein, that's the one. We'll do. It'll be like. Was that family? It'll be like Family Values Tour 2030. And it'll be Rammstein, Slipknot, Korn, Faith No More, Limp Bizkit, Bad Wolves.
At least like Fred Durst will come out on stage looking like an old man, even though he'll be an old man, because that's what he does. He likes doing that.
He might have a whole new thing. He might have
Cowboy Fred Durst.
I love it. New metal cowboy.
That was awesome. So with you saying that, would you want them to play a certain record, or would you just want them to wing it, do whatever songs they want?
Band?
Which tour? Well, whatever, both tour lineups. Which would you want?
No, I don't care what. Right? I don't care what. I'm just saying, like, I'm just be happy to be nominated. That's it. Just to be happy to be part of it. They play what they play.
You've collabed with a lot of artists over the years. Which artist would you love to collab with?
That's realistic or just like dream?
Both.
Like not as an art, like not like another artist, but someone like I feel like it'd be a great accomplishment to have Rick Rubin produce a record I worked on, because I really admire his work and his philosophy, and I study a lot of the things that he kind of preaches and some of his methodology. So just to kind of just experience that, I think would be really cool. As far as like another like artist, like I don't even know if this is realistic, but like Dave Grohl, probably not realistic, but still would be epic beyond all measure. Who else would be cool? Nine Inch, Trent Reznor, someone like that. But again, I feel unworthy. I'm like, I can't. Maybe I'll come. I can deliver him some pizza or something. I'll give him a shoulder rub while he's working.
I think you're worthy enough to work with them. I think they would enjoy like having like I don't want to call you new school, but new school, because like they're from a different era, kind of.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's so funny with me is I'm not like I get really sometimes nervous in like studio, like pure like you're in the studio, we got to write, and I'm like I kind of get a little. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes I feel like sometimes I help, and sometimes I'm trash. I feel like I'm more like old school. Like, oh, let's get like we were in a room like with just instruments, we were jamming. I feel more comfortable in that than like we're in the studio. We got like, that is some people that's like their thing. Sometimes the pressure of like you gotta come up with something or you gotta play it sick or so sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not, and I get I might freeze up.
The cool thing is, if you recorded with Grohl, he likes to do everything like on tape. So that would have been that. If you haven't done that, that'd be a cool experience.
I've done 2 records on tape actually.
Ooh.
The first 2 Got Rid of albums. So
I
know about it. I've been there.
You're like, I'm not new to the industry. Come on.
No, I mean, listen, that's definitely a cool experience, and definitely like to have a foot in the old realm. Is something I appreciate. Just seeing how everything's changed so much. Or at least I can say I've had that experience.
Definitely. So you've accomplished so much already. What else is on your bucket list?
It's a good question. I think really the only like bucket list item is just like it'd be like I think I want to have like a future that is just a little more clear. Like really since the end of the pandemic, I feel like I've been fighting for like my survival in music. So I think I'm like experiencing some burnout, but the burnout isn't just about last year. It's like 3 years worth of just grinding, just full on like freight, like just like a runaway train,
Yeah.
and like just feeling it. But when you have that thing of like, if I don't do this, then my career's over. If I don't do this, if I don't work hard, then I can't. And that pressure just kind of always on you, I don't think is that healthy. But sometimes you have to do that, right? Sometimes you gotta like, I gotta just give 1,000%. Um, but I think being like that all the time is not that good for you. You gotta have to
Yeah.
like kind of get to a cruising altitude at some point. So I think I just want to be at a point where I'm not like stressing that, you know, that I'm not going to have a career, or I'm not going to be
Yeah.
able to do this at the level I want to do it. I want to feel like secure in that, you know?
Yeah.
So, and who knows? I don't know if, there's that's going to happen with Bad Wolves or another project or
Yeah.
whatever. Maybe I'll hit the lottery. uh,
Just disappear.
what's that?
You just disappear. You're gonna show actually, you can show up to the lottery thing with the ghost face mask because 'cause I've seen someone, I guess, do that, and then no one will ever know you won the lottery.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do whatever I can to own a lottery that no one knows that. Um, but no, but just and I know that sounds kind of a weird thing, I'd say, actually, I'll say this. This is probably a better um, bucket list. I don't really think I've made my signature work as an individual. And that doesn't mean I'm like do a solo album or something.
Yeah.
I just mean like something that I feel like creatively I'm at least at the root of it. I don't have to be the sole root of it, but at least
Yeah.
a big part of something that is truly widely regarded as one of the great works or a classic piece of work. And I don't know if I've accomplished that to this point. I know I've done things and been part of things that have affected people and have had a
Mhm.
big impact, but it'd be amazing to have like, give an example, like Turnstile put out, that album, and it like immediately everyone's like,
Yeah.
this is a classic album. And they overnight they became like one of the big bands. Or like Bad Omens put out that last album, and everyone's like, this is the album. They are the
Yeah.
band of the moment. Or Sleep Token. We're like, with that thing that 20 years from now, people go, that was the thing. And I don't really think I've done that. I've come close. Um, and so, and maybe, but who knows? Maybe it's not even in music. Maybe it'll be
Mm.
something else creatively that I do. But it'd be nice to believe that everyone wants to think their best work is ahead of them. Where it remains to be seen. We'll see.
I like to think of bands as, and I don't like to say this often, but as like wrestling gimmicks. Like, look at Bad Omens, like you said, they made it. They found their wrestling gimmick. Look at you can
Were they
name like
are they a heel or a face?
uh, I think the heel's the one that makes like everyone love them, but you hate them at the same time.
I think they're a heel because this the big song, one of the big song, Like a Villain.
Mhm.
All right, I think they're more heel.
Razor Ramon. No, I'm just kidding. um, so let's talk about your podcast. You have guests on it here and there. Do you do like research or do you just go with the flow?
uh, I would feel like a terrible person or a bad host if I didn't do research. I mean, you have to listen. I've had situations where, I remember I had Ken Schalk from Candiria, the drummer, who I was friends with, and like that was like I think that was probably one of the only times where I didn't do research, but I didn't have to. I knew everything. I knew everything about their career. I knew all their records, and it was all in my head. I could just bang it out. Um, but even if it's someone I know, generally it's about, to me, like if it's a musician, I try and listen to the music
Mhm.
just to absorb, like just understand the pathway uh, that they've been on, and more. It's not necessarily about questions. Sometimes questions is more about bullet points,
Yeah.
and just to really create like a map in your mind. Like I don't, more often than not, I don't really want to like read them off. I want to have it like do it so that it's here, and then that way it becomes more intuitive. But then also be an active listener, and let the conversation kind of lead you, so you're not so attached to this prefabricated structure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really make sure, especially if it's, you know, I wouldn't say especially, like, yeah, I mean, I have notes for every show I've ever done, you know.
That's so cool.
And I think, and that's, I think for me, just, I don't care what it is, music, you know, podcasts, you know, when I was writing, like, preparation is like, don't, you know, that's the only thing you can do. That's the only way you ensure yourself that you're not gonna fall on your face, you know,
Oh,
because,
yeah.
you know, I'm not, never been confident enough in my life to think I could just wing it through just about anything.
I've talked to interviewers and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know how you write down all your questions. I just go off my mind." I'm like, "I don't know how you do that, dude, because there's so much you can go over with one person. Like you've been in you've been in many different bands, but three notable bands. And then on top of that, like you've done many other things. I can't just keep all of that in my brain. I just never understand how people do that.
Well, I noticed myself, you know, when I was so busy this year with touring, I was pretty modest in terms of how many shows I was able to do, or last year, excuse me. Um, but when I'm, you know, when I'm home for long periods of time and I can really do the show,
Mhm.
the more interviews I do, the better I get, and the more quick I am, and the more easily I'm able to, like, to get the flow going, and just everything. So I think, as I, you know, when I first started doing podcasting, I'd be like, if I didn't have my notes, I'd fall on my face because I'd be so nervous about what's gonna happen next. What am I gonna say? You know, I was so in my head about how to actually do it. But, you know, like anything, the more you do it, the more reps you get, and the more comfortable you get. Um, and having, even if you have notes or something, just making it seamless so that, you know, even the listener doesn't even feel like it's structured that way at all. That it just
Yeah.
feels naturalistic.
Yeah, that makes sense though. With you being home for a while, are you gonna do some more podcasting then?
Yes, I have, I think, an episode coming out day after tomorrow. I
Mhm.
just, like, I've been doing these gigs. I've a bunch of gigs between last week and this, so everything's been kind of focused on that.
Mhm.
So after next week, my schedule will open up a little more, um, and we'll see how busy I get. But I really, you know, this isn't a bucket list thing, but I really, I've been so busy learning music for gigs for like
Yeah.
almost a year that I feel like I haven't had any time to write music.
Mm.
And so I really want to carve out time to write. And there's a good chance the show might take a little bit of a back burner to that.
Yeah.
We'll see though. We'll see. But I definitely want to get my show up to episode 250 sometime soon.
You'll
So
get it there. And so, what advice would you give your younger self?
um really, it's, don't be desperate,
Mm.
you know. Like, in a weird way, right? Like, I think a lot of the problems I had when I was younger was not really having a great foundation of self-esteem, and uh, and because of that, all my self-worth came from my band,
Mhm.
and but it was like a house of cards because it wasn't real. Uh, Real self-worth cannot be found through external validation. It has to come from uh, internal works, you know, and
Mhm.
developing that. But a lot of that was not my fault. It was my environment and people I was around. And so, in a weird way, like, even me saying that, like, man, if I would have known this, or if I would have had that sense of self, I wouldn't have done this or wouldn't have thought that. But it's like, your life is your life, you know, like, you can't really, you know, like, I don't know if you can really do things any different. But I think it's just, you know, like, and I think when you have low self-esteem, you know, just somehow, whether that's maybe not loving yourself or not really valuing yourself to some degree. I would hope I would have, that's tied into this idea of not being desperate, of just like, have a sense of self-worth, um, you know, but I don't regret my life path, you
Mm.
know,
That's
where
good.
how I've gotten here, because I just don't think, I just don't think that way. Like, oh, I should have done this, I would have had that. But no, this is where you're at. There's no doing it. There's no do overs. So just accept your path, and it's all about what you're doing today.
That
That's
makes
it.
sense. That makes sense. And then for someone listening to you for the first time, what 3 tracks from your discography would you tell them to listen to?
It's a good question. I would say probably, God forbid, I'd say Chains of Humanity.
Mm,
It's a good one. Um, Another song for my band Vegas Nerve. I don't know if that's like the biggest thing I've done, but it's important to me. It's a song called
mhm,
"Pull Me Out." It's a really important song to me. And then Bad Wolves. As far as song I worked on, probably Better Off This Way. I
nice.
think
That's
so.
a solid those are some solid tracks.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little, I'm like, I don't know if I should go heavier. I don't know. It is what it is. Let's
Well, I see it as it describes who you are and what you would want them to, "Oh, this is Doc," you know?
to some degree. To some, it's a part. It's a piece. Maybe three's not enough, but it'll
There's
have to
never
do.
enough, right? That's why it's the good question. And then where can everyone keep up with you and buy the new Bad Wolves?
Well, if you don't know where to buy records at, I will tell you. If you're buying records, people who are still buying records, they know where to get them. Right? They figure this out. But all my stuff was my name at Doc Coyle, all platforms. I'm on the TikTok,
You're at the TikTok.
like another one of these slaves out here, just shaking ass for likes. I'm in there, just shaking that ass for likes.
I actually liked what you
Pitiful.
posted the other day about you hoping you wanting one day it not to be about social media. I thought that was like amazing.
Yeah, maybe that should have been my bucket list.
Maybe us go back to the 80s where it's all about just the radio.
Well, it's like it's funny. Like I don't know if it's because I'm like haven't been drinking, but or I'm just like absorbing too much news. Or I'm thinking about all this like science fiction shit, right? Because it's like I feel like I watch a lot of science fiction, but I feel like there's a lot of doomsaying going on right now. Like everyone's like, it's the end of the world, right? And I was thinking, I was like, what if there was like a terrorist, but all they did was like nuke the internet? So like they just like because they were like everyone's on their phones and it's like everyone's lonely and everyone's miserable and they're just like all you gotta do to save humanity is like destroy the internet and like all of a sudden like one day it's like there was no internet. Like what would that would be a fucking crazy thing.
That would be.
It was
Maybe
just
no one would have followers anymore. Wouldn't it be about numbers?
no, you have to have old school stalkers, that motherfucker just hanging out by the garbage can, by your house, that's how we did it in the 80s. Not me, but I was
Sure.
told there were people.
I don't know if I believe that now. You just said how you guys did it in the 80s.
I was 8 in the 80s, okay?
You could have been a stalker, you never know.
I was not I was stalking television, okay?
Ninja Turtles?
TGIF, Full House, Family Matters, and that one with Suzanne Summers.
No Ninja Turtles?
That wasn't on prime time.
I
That
was
was a
hoping you
Saturday
were
morning cartoon, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, but Ninja Turtles is everything.
Yeah, but the show I'm pretty sure was a daytime. Like
Okay, so I'll ask you this one last question. If you can be a Ninja Turtle, which Ninja Turtle would you be?
so like I'm a big fan of the movie, right?
You're talking about 90s, right? I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I think the movie came out 89 or 90. Yeah, I think either 89 or 90 or maybe even 88. I can't remember. But I love that movie. Game changer. It's still good. It holds up. But
I
I
agree.
like in the movie, my favorite was Raphael because he had like some crazy ass Brooklyn accent, and he just had mad attitude. It's like he's nothing like me, but he was my favorite in the movie. And then in like the cartoon, like I don't really remember how different their voices were, the personalities that much, but the movie I remember very well. He was my favorite. He was street, he was hood.
You're gonna wear the trench coat and everything?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I got a shaved head and I got a big head, so I basically look like a Ninja Turtle already. All you do is paint me green and give me a ninja mask, or whatever.
I think that should be your NAM attire at the booth that you're gonna be signing at. Just go Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, I don't want that kind of attention. I want to. move silently if I can. Not that I'm that important, but
You never know. There could be like, because Geezer Butler's gonna be there. It could be as crazy as that line's gonna
yeah, I
be.
don't want that. I'm like I'm fine. Like I have to do a signing. I'm like I'm hoping there's like 8 people and I can leave.
You can't leave, Nam. You got to be there all
No,
day.
I just mean leave the site. Like I hang out. All right, 8 people. I sign these 8 things, and then that's it. I'm done.
Never know.
I'm not expecting much, but we'll see.
We'll see. I'll roll over to the booth to be part of one of the 8 people there.
See, now you're gonna be spreading the word, But I don't think I don't know if any artists out there are like, I love doing signings. Not that there's like anything against it. It's just more like it's a weird idea to be like, I really want people to
Have
give
my
me
name.
adulation. That's a very strange idea. Like obviously you want to. I think you can like the idea of that. If you're legitimately famous and all everywhere you go, people are like, what do you do? Then you can really see the positive benefit of like giving people that thing they're yearning after. But me, I never really believe people really want anything from me. So every now and again there'll be a hyped up person, but
We'll find out at NAM in a few days.
we will find out. It's going to be very revealing. But it's not just me; it's like other people. So
I don't know. They might all be there for you. Never know.
We'll see.
Well, I'd like to thank you for being on my show.
You're welcome. I was thinking like when you have like the Bay Hive, and you have like what are the Taylor Swift, the Swifties? We need
What would yours be? The Dockies?
well, no, no, but I was thinking about the Ninja Turtles thing. It's like the Foot Clan. We need like maybe some like play on that. Call them a Foot Clan. I can't call them the Foot Clan, but something like that. I don't know. I'll think about it.
We'll find. I'll find out. I'll have to know your answer this weekend. Well, like I said, thank you for being on the show. I'm gonna end the show.